Damon Williams has decided to enter the transfer portal just 4 days after it was reported that he had signed a contract with the Huskies for one more season as their starting quarterback. And we got to talk about it. All right. So first off, this is loose, unprepared. I just want to react to the Damon Williams news. I have this idea for a podcast about what I think the Mariners should do next. What I think a great move would be for them, and I keep wanting to record it, and I keep getting other stuff that gets in the way, life, family stuff. And also, I made a New Year's resolution regarding this podcast. I don't make any money doing this. I just do it because I enjoy talking about Seattle sports. So I'm not gonna hold myself to this idea that you have to publish on some schedule. It's gonna hurt the traffic to this podcast. So if you like it, please subscribe and hit that notification bell that'll let you know when I publish, because I'm not gonna be in any algorithms. I've committed to this podcast is gonna be what it's gonna be. This YouTube show is gonna be what it's gonna be. So, also, by the way, if you like me at all, and you know anyone that lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma, please let them know that I will be there this weekend, headlining the Bricktown Tulsa Comedy Club. Tulsa is the home of Seahawks legend and NFL Hall of Famer Steve Largent. And I got to go check out their football stadium last time, and this time I'm going to check out a basketball game while I'm there. So Damon Williams, 4 days ago, reports surfaced that he's returning to Washington on a lucrative NIL deal that apparently includes some like revenue sharing stuff. And then during the Mia Hammond Memorial service, he posts on Instagram that he is entering the transfer portal. And I mean, that is not tasteful on his part. You know, I can't imagine that was intentional. So, though it's not tasteful, and I'm not excusing it, I do think it's distasteful. I don't think it was meant to be intentionally disrespectful. Thoughtless like you'd expect from a 20-year-old guy, by the way. So I have a couple thoughts on this. First off, the most exciting part of having Jedd Fisch return in 2026, because I had some worries that he was gonna leave for greener pastures. I thought that apparently maybe was a candidate for the Michigan job. I thought that I thought that he would actually be a more strong candidate for the Florida job. He ends up sticking around University of Washington, and the most exciting part of that is you kind of assumed that it would mean that Damon would stay here. Damon had been kind of at his hip for his whole recruiting process. He had come to Washington, sat a year, played this year, and it seemed like those guys were attached at the hip. That being said, I mean, Damon had committed to Ole Miss at some point in his recruiting process, I believe, and he has ties to Lane Kiffin, and apparently he's going to LSU to play for Lane Kiffin. The after Lane Kiffin controversially became the head coach of the LSU Tigers. So I've seen a lot of people say that college football is unwatchable, it's broken, and I agree with them. I will say I have been a person who said that morally players should be paid. Maybe not at schools where they're making, D2 schools where at best probably the football program is breaking even or making a small amount of money for the school, but at these D1 programs where Arch Manning is making Texas however many millions of dollars, he should get a chunk of that. It's his labor, his body, his potential for injury. And I still do believe that. And I think that if you're a Washington fan, I mean, the new landscape of, you would be hard pressed, in my opinion, to find a program who has been more hurt by the new landscape of college football. Because I mean, obviously, like, I guess that's maybe not true. Washington State fans are probably throwing whatever device, throwing their phone against the ground if they're watching this on YouTube. But present major conference teams, to go from 2 years ago you're in the national championship, and then late in the cycle through questionable practices, you lose Kalen DeBoer. And then not only do you lose Kalen DeBoer, but you lose key pieces. A ton of players jump ship. And you're, I believe, post-transfer portal, but those guys have a window. So it's like, it really was the worst of all possible outcomes. You lose the national championship game, you lose your head coach, and then you lose the ability to replenish your roster of these players who have the opportunity to enter the transfer portal in this unique circumstance where they lost their coach late in the season. I still think there's this phrase that is probably out of favor now. The fact that, by the way, I got my daughter running around our house saying 6'7" because my wife is a teacher and I know it's a troll. My wife hates it, and so I just tee my daughter up constantly. But I know if I'm pumping 6'7s out, then 6'7's got to be on the way out. There's a phrase, a pop culture phrase, keep that same energy, that I've always loved. I think it's a perfect description of what you're asking of people. And if somebody had said to me, keep that same energy when your team is being fucked by these rules, this is the opportunity to do that. This last 2 years is my test of, does my desire for the University of Washington to be good outweigh my morality and what I believe is like the principle under which I think players should be paid. And I think that it's been wrong for decades that schools who got a lot of beef and problems with the way the college process period for students, not student athletes, students, is handled, that they're enriching themselves on the backs of these players without compensating them more than a scholarship, without compensating them more than a violin player who does not risk his or her brain damage in the name of that scholarship. And I stand by it. The system we have now, what I said to a friend of mine is, the burden of a broken system used to fall on the players. The players had all these restrictions. They weren't allowed to transfer. Like there was a bunch of restrictions on where they could transfer, and their team had kind of the ultimate approval, and the only pressure against the team was the ability to recruit other players. And that would all get outweighed and outshadowed by their ability to generate pro talent, and also the obviously not getting paid. And it was just so restrictive for players. And you'd see these guys who were stuck in depth charts behind 4 or 5 star talent who, Tom Brady's a good example of this, a guy who Drew Henson was there. And one of those guys almost certainly would have transferred away from Michigan if it was easy back then and been a full-time starter somewhere else. So I do think on net, the system is better morally. As a principle, it's better. It's so much worse for fans. Fans have taken on the entire burden. And fuck the universities. They deserve the burden. They've been collecting tens of millions of dollars a year on the backs of these players. And finally, they're being asked to share some of it with the players. I do not feel bad for any of these universities. I do think that the players, I do think the system needs to be regulated. I do think there needs to be, like, if college football is to sustain, which I have some long range opinions of, that maybe we could talk about it at a different time. If college football is to sustain, if you can hear my dog in the background, hopefully not a ton of barks. Let's see if there's anyone at my porch. Well, there is. Real quickly, let's see it's probably the mailman. Is this exciting podcasting? If college football is to sustain, they need to create a yeah, it must be the mailman. For the fifth time, I'm going to try to complete this sentence. If college football is to sustain, they need to create a system where teams are able to keep talent year over year, where teams are able to do some planning, where fans are able to do some, like, get attached to some players. And I think where we're headed is contracts and how they have to do this to comply with the congressional ruling. I don't know. That's not my expertise. And by the way, I'd also be fine if there was maximum lengths. Obviously, I don't think you would want to sign a player for more than 4 years. I don't think you should be allowed to sign a player for more than 4 years. I'd be fine with 2 years. I'd be fine with 2 years is the max length, and then you have to renegotiate after that. I'd also be fine if it was 4 years, and a team, if an Arch Manning type comes around and Texas wants to devote 4 years, $20 million to Arch Manning, go for it. Have at it. I think some regulation of whether it's a salary cap or whatever you may want to call it, some cap would probably be good for the overall health of college football. If there's collective bargaining, they would hate that, obviously, but I think that the system is broken, and the thing that makes it different right now is that the burden is falling on the fans. The system's been broken for longer than NIL. It's more broken now, but it was broken before. We have problems. College football has problems. And a couple of years ago, I will say, I will raise my hand to a degree. My friend Gaby Lucas, fellow comedian, former host of the UW Dog Pound podcast. I can't remember what it was called, but what is that the name of the whatever the SB Nation blog was? She was a co-host of that. After the DeBoer debacle and the DeBoer departure from Seattle or from Washington, she was like, I'm done with college football. Not like in defiance, even. She was just like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the nature of college football as it is right now and as it will continue to be. And she's right. I understand that. I also, a couple additional thoughts before I go. Washington is planning on pursuing legal action against Damon Williams and against LSU potentially. I do think it's a little bit hairy when you as an organization, as a team, as a football team, seek to sue your player. I think that's bad PR for future recruiting, frankly. I hope not. I do think that this departure, Damon Williams signing a contract, and then signing apparently a new contract, because he's in the transfer portal with a non-contact status, meaning theoretically he's already got a team picked out. I think this is going to be a precedent-setting event, but I don't think, like, I understand the desire from a Washington fan to exact revenge and get your pound of flesh for you thinking you've been wronged. I don't think you want your team to be the versus Damon Williams. Washington versus Damon Williams. I don't think you want your team to be on that side. I don't think you want to be forever linked to a lawsuit that reduces player freedom, that reduces player earning potential potentially. I also think that, and I'm on my second attempt at recording this, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. The most exciting part about Jedd Fisch returning, about him not being the person who got hired for the Michigan role, because I will tell you, I've been pretty impressed with Jedd Fisch to this point. I think he's been as good of a coach as the Huskies could have hoped for from him. Recruiting's been pretty good. The fundraising's been pretty good. Last year I think they won, or this year I think they won every game you would have expected them to win outside of Wisconsin, maybe. I just am still not in love with Jed Fish. It just feels so temporary. And it is kind of poetic for him to be on the receiving end of this kind of bullshit, because he does seem like the kind of like part of the problem, right? He's one of these mercenary coaches that I feel like it's, I thought he would end up being a strong candidate and end up even getting the Florida job. He was apparently a candidate for the Michigan job, and the biggest thing that made it exciting that he was not hired for either of those jobs is that it meant we got to see another year of Damon Williams, hopefully 2 years of Damon Williams. For me, I wanted the Jed Fish era to last as long as the Damon Williams era could last. And beyond that, I was ambivalent. I think Jed Fish is fine. I don't think he's a guy that's going to take a team to a college championship. And unfortunately, 2 years ago spoiled me, and now I want to see the Huskies win a national championship. I'd like the next coach to be the kind of guy, the kind of coach that takes them to a national championship. I also think that Washington could very well be the beneficiary this year or in near future years of this kind of controversial acquisition, and we all have to eat a bunch of crow. We all have to feel hypocritical. So I'm a realist about that. As far as the future of the one silver lining to this that I will say, and as far as the future of the future of the Huskies program is concerned, there are interesting names that are in or potentially in the transfer portal. I've been trying to substantiate this. I've seen some stuff about Noah Fafita being in the transfer portal on X that I can't substantiate. I've been trying to. Fafita obviously has some ties to Jed Fish from Arizona. I think that would be interesting. Now I gotta find this. Oh man, Houston Longstreet, the 5-star recruit from USC. He was recruited by Washington, had a visit to Washington, was theoretically Washington was on his radar. He might be entering the transfer portal. Would be a redshirt freshman. That's exciting. And to me, that if Jed Fish can pull him from USC, make him a 1 or 2 or 4 year starter, 1, 2, 3, 4 year starter at Washington, that's exciting. That is exciting Jed Fish action. But so I think that the 2026 Washington Huskies are probably going to be fine. But I do think it's worrisome. You just don't want your team to be on the versus line of that legal precedent, I'm trying not to be controversial. You don't want them to be Roe or Wade. You know what I mean? You don't want their name associated. SMU. They are associated with the death penalty forever. You don't want that for Washington. You don't want Washington to be part of, in my opinion, you want the only thing they're associated with to be winning and excellence, not in the courtroom, on the field. So I kind of am apprehensive to even root for them to win that lawsuit, to be honest with you. Okay. Please come see me. Subscribe to this YouTube channel /podcast. Thank you for listening to this that you did. And I have a Mariners idea that maybe I'll record later today, but who knows? Thanks, everybody. Bye.